What's going on, Geminites? It's your boy GemMint, and we have a special video today. I know you guys have seen me start collecting a lot of the Prime 1 Studio Arkham 1/3 scale line, and I'm still kind of new to it. Like, there's things I don't know. Which is the DX? What's the exclusive? Which pieces are sold out and out of stock and hard to get a hold of? So I figured, who better to bring on the channel than the Batman statue collector himself? What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, Jim? Thanks for having me.
It's going great. Thank you for joining me. This was something that I was going to just pick your brain through like a PM, and I was like, you know what? This would make for a good video because there's probably other people looking at the line or wanting to get into it, and it would just be good knowledge to share with everyone. So that's why I wanted to bring you on. I've always enjoyed your channel. I like how it's a theme. Like me, I'm all over the place, man. But you have like that dedicated collection. Like, you're into the Batman stuff. Even though I've seen you kind of lean to the dark side a little bit with this MCU stuff. Have you jumped into that yet?
Not yet. I just, I used to collect a lot of different things. I used to collect Star Wars. I used to collect Marvel. And it got to a point where I was so stressed out because I wanted all the pieces. I wanted everything. And it came down to a point where I had to, just for my own stress, I had to pick something, and it ended up being Batman, because I've always loved the Rogues. Like, the Rogues have always spoken to me, and so I thought, okay, Batman and his Rogues, that's definitely a theme that I can kind of narrow down and stick with. And so that's how I became the Batman statue collector.
All right, yeah, that's actually a really good point, because that's why I didn't collect DC in the beginning. I was getting Marvel and DC stuff, and it was just too expensive, not enough space. So I decided to just stick with Marvel, and I kind of stayed that way for a few years. But, now I have a little bit more space. We kind of expanded the Gempire to downstairs. You guys have probably seen it by the time this airs. But I did want to pick your brain on the line here. So, first of all, the Arkham line. Do they have statues from all 4 games, like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Origins, and Arkham Knight?
They are primarily Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins. I think the only one that they did, Arkham City, is the new Poison Ivy. And I was kind of surprised because I figured that they would do more from that game, but really it's just been Knight and Origins. Some of the smaller scale stuff that they're doing now is going to be from Arkham City. But as far as I know, just Poison Ivy from that game.
Is that the Poison Ivy with the really huge, elaborate base?
The one with the really big base, that actually is Poison Ivy Hush, Jim Lee Hush. The new Poison Ivy is the one that they kind of went back and did fan service for, and that's the one where she's kind of pointing. She's got the red shirt, and she'll probably come out in 1.5 to 2 years.
Oh, okay. So that one's just on pre-order status.
Yes.
So how many Batman statues are there in this line?
Oh my gosh, there are a lot. Because even like ones like Batman Noel, some of those statues, those are from that game. They're basically just skins, and that's how they were able to provide all of the different statues. But you have Batman Beyond, you've got Arkham Knight, you've got Arkham Origins Batman. I'm trying to think if there's any other I'm missing.
So I have the Batman Arkham Knights. At this time, I have not unboxed it yet. Is there a big difference between the Arkham Origins and the Arkham Knight Batman?
Not a ton. I mean, the look of the character is quite a bit different. In Arkham Origins, Batman was a lot younger and he had a different suit. I actually prefer, between the two, I actually prefer the Arkham Knight Batman, and it's one of my favorites in my collection right behind me here. But the Arkham Origins has a little bit bigger base, and he's a little bulkier. He's got a little wider shoulders. Again, some people really love that look, but I really like the Arkham Knight look better.
Yeah, I feel like I don't need the same Batman. Like, I don't need Arkham Knights and Arkham Origins, but I definitely like having like a Batman Beyond, and I like having a Batman Flashpoint, because those are not Bruce Wayne. Those are different characters altogether. I mean, I know the Batman Beyond is like a skin kind of thing, but still, to me, what is his name? Terry? What's Batman Beyond?
Terry McGinnis, yeah.
Terry McGinnis, right? So I guess I should preface this by saying right now I have the Batman Arkham Knights, the Joker Arkham Origins, then I have Bane from Arkham Origins, yeah, Red Hood, Killer Croc, Mr. Freeze, and that's it, right? So that's what I have right now. Now, I actually consulted you on the Joker. I'm like, which one do I get? This guy's got Arkham Origins, but there's an Arkham Knights one, and you happen to also like the Origins one on that one.
Well, actually, I have the Knight as the one I own, and I just liked it because it's more of a Mark Hamill Joker, and I've always wanted some Joker that represents Mark Hamill, whether it's animated series or whether it's the games. But he's my favorite Joker. I just love the way he's portrayed. The Arkham Origins Joker is really good as well. It's the one with the staircase where it's got the Red Hood switch out, and a lot of people really like that too. If I had room for him in like a separate display area, I would have purchased him as well. A lot of people prefer that one because of that Red Hood swap out, and that is, that Killing Joke with the red dome. It's just a really cool statue, but I just didn't feel like I needed two that were, like you said, with the Batman, they were so much alike.
Yeah, I ended up getting, the same one that you have in the background there, the one where he's on that top of the building. I really do like the Red Hood switch out as well, but this was part of a local pickup, so you said that you liked it better. I was like, okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, it's just different, and it's different than all the other ones. With if you can see behind me, he's on the tower. It's a little different base, and he has little fuzz sticking out of his arms, which is really cool, like where the stitching is, and that's not the same on all the other statues. It's very different, and it's got some really great swap outs with the top hat and the different head sculpts. Just a really cool piece.
Now, I'm going to take a guess that Mr. Freeze and Killer Croc are expensive on the aftermarket due to their size and the fact that they're sold out through Sideshow. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing you have to consider too is the shipping. I know that you recently just picked yours up in a U-Haul, which is awesome. But people that are trying to sell these things, these are incredibly big, and they're 2 boxes, as you know. But they're very, very hard to find now because they are such big pieces, and they didn't make a tremendous amount of them. Especially with Mr. Freeze, and I don't know if you got the exclusive or not. The exclusive is Nora, and trying to find her is almost near impossible.
Yeah, he didn't have the exclusive for Freeze, but it wasn't a deal breaker to me because it wasn't like a switch out. It was a proximity piece. I could live without it. But I think the Croc is the exclusive. Man, and your Killer Croc video, I remember watching it when you dropped it, and I was like, man, that is a humongous, crazy piece. So I'm super excited. I think I'm going to unbox that one today.
I love Croc. He is fantastic. Both head sculpts are really good. I swap them out all the time. The only thing I don't like about Croc is I wish he wasn't as hunched over as he is. In the old Batcave where I used to be, it had angled ceilings, and it was just perfect. It works in here really well too. I just wish he was a little bit more upright to show how massive he is. But I get why he's why he's kind of hunched down is because otherwise he would tower over all the other statues.
Yeah, that's true. I think when you have such a large character, it helps to kind of hunch him over a little bit. Let me ask you this: so, what other pieces from this line are hard to get or very expensive on the aftermarket? What do I have to worry about getting, basically?
The one that comes to mind is Azrael. Azrael was kind of this weird sleeper hit where, there was all these characters that they could have done, like a Riddler or a Penguin that people really wanted. But Prime 1, for some reason, they were doing all these obscure characters, and Azrael was one of them. I really toiled for a long time because in the game, you could choose whether he's good or bad. And my thing was I wanted to have Batman surrounded by all of his villains. And so I chose, I kind of convinced myself that Azrael was a villain. But he's very, very hard to find. And he, again, like $900 when he first came out, great price point for him. But he's one that's very difficult. And I think some of the heroes, I also at one point had Batgirl, Robin, and Nightwing. Batgirl is harder to find. You can find some Nightwings and you can find some Robins in the buy-sell trade groups and things like that, but Batgirl is harder to find, so I don't know if that's one you're interested in, but she's a little difficult.
Yeah, it gets to be a lot when you're collecting all the villains, but then you have the Bat family, which is almost as extensive as the Rogues Gallery sometimes.
It can be, absolutely. Are you going to go all Rogues, or are you going to get a little bit of both?
I don't know, man. I think right now I'm thinking Rogues. And see, I already have 2 Batman because I have the Arkham Knights, right?
Yep, Arkham Knight.
And then I have, not from the Arkham line, but the Dark Knight Master Race 1/3 scale that just came out. So it's like, I don't know how many, I don't know. So I'm already getting too much, but...
Well, that's the thing is, like we were talking about me having the focus of Batman. If you don't have that narrow focus, sometimes, I see a lot of people saying, I don't need 3 Batmans. I don't need 3 Jokers. By the time my collection's done, I'm going to have like 10 Jokers and 10 Batmans. So it's like, but that's just what I choose because those are the characters that I love. But I think with the Batman that you have, you have one that represents video games, but then you also have one that represents the comic books really well with that Del Auto cover. So either way, I think you're good.
That's why I decided to do with it, because I was like, how can I not have the Arkham Batman with all the Arkham line? I figured it was different enough from the kind of Frank Miller inspired one, Gabriel Dell'Otto inspired one, so that was my reasoning too. So we have similar wavelengths when it comes to collecting.
Yeah, I think so.
Let me ask you this. Which statues from this line are like evergreen, are like cheap, lower than retail, easy to come by?
Oh man, usually you can find Catwoman pretty easily. Two-Face is getting to be harder to find, but for a while there you could find some Two-Face. It's one of my favorites in my collection.
I really want that Two-Face. He looks insane. The face and the hand that's deformed looks amazing.
It's so great, and he has the exclusive is he's got this big grenade launcher, and his hand is just sculpted beautifully. It's just really well done. And actually, the regular face is what I liked, but when I got it in hand, the other face, the kind of the angry face, is the one that I ended up really loving. The details on him is insane. But he's getting harder to find. So, as time goes on, this line is, a little bit older now. And so it's a little bit more difficult to find these in the buy-sell trade groups. You can find some on eBay, but of course the prices are insane. Croc and Freeze are getting more and more difficult. You can sometimes find the Deathstroke, since they have the comic version out, which I own as well, from Prime 1. You can sometimes find him a little bit easier. Sometimes Scarecrow. Arkham Knight is a little bit easier to find. But I just don't see a ton of these for sale anymore.
So let's talk about Arkham Knight really quick. So Arkham Knight and Red Hood, are they the same sculpt with a different paint and different switch outs?
Okay, so Prime 1 actually did 3. They did the one that's behind me here, and this is the actual Arkham Knight character. That's the one that you see throughout the game. Then at the very end of the game, I think we've exhausted our spoiler alert at this point, but at the end of the game, it is revealed that it is Jason Todd, and he dons this red hood. And this one actually comes with that. It comes with a red hood, and it comes with a red chest plate. Then they came out with a second version that's more Red Hood, it doesn't have the blues and it doesn't have the Arkham Knight head. It just has a Red Hood head sculpt, and his whole body is kind of the same but red. He just has the gun sticking down. I really like that one a lot. I've actually considered getting. I've considered getting that one. That's the one you have?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Okay, and I love that one. It's really awesome. But basically, it's the same sculpt as the one that I have behind me, but just with a little bit of difference. And then the last one that came out, I actually owned this one too, and this is the more traditional Red Hood. It's got the brown jacket with the gun sticking up and down, and it was a cool piece. I actually did a repaint of him because he was really dull. It wasn't my favorite. It didn't match the quality of the other pieces, in my opinion. But so basically they did 3 of him in different versions.
Wow, so I didn't even know that going in. I just, I like Red Hood, and I never played Arkham Knights. I only played Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. But I always remember seeing the blue Arkham Knight with the gun in the air, like at my comic shop, way before I even started the channel, and I was always like super impressed by it.
He's one of my favorites, and he was the second one that I purchased. Of course, Batman came out first, and he was the second one, and he's still one of my absolute favorites. I love the way he looks, and again, he wasn't in the game all that much, and then of course, but he is now in media a little bit more. Now he's in some of the comic stories, finally, which is really cool, but in a little different iteration. But I really like this statue. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was the first one from the line. So they did a Batman, and then Arkham Knight was the second one.
Yes, correct. And then I think Harley Quinn was the third, and she is phenomenal.
So I see Harley Quinn behind you. That's the one you're speaking of, right?
Yes, and they've only done the Arkham Knight version of her. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done a Jester version of her in some way. But I just think she is phenomenal. I love the head sculpt. She's got a little cut and sew element with her skirt, which is really cool, and some really cool exclusive. The exclusive on her was these little Batman and Joker dolls that are a lot of fun. And so you can find her from time to time, and she's one I would highly recommend if you're a Harley fan.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't love the costume for like that Harley, but the portraits look amazing. Like, it's almost worth it just for those head sculpts. Same with even like the Suicide Squad version. The head sculpts that Prime 1 does are just like immaculate. So a Jester one I think would be awesome if they did that. Yeah,
I would love to see that because, I also am collecting the Hush line, at least most of them, and the great thing about that would be a great Harley because she's got that Jester look, and I just can't believe they haven't done her yet, but my fingers crossed that maybe they'll do her in the future.
So it sounds like you got rid of the Bat family pieces and you're just focusing on the rogues as well.
I did. I had those other three, and at the end of the day, it started coming down to space. I was in the old Batcave at the time, and so I was like, my theme has always been, or at least my favorite thing has always been Batman surrounded by his villains. And in this cave especially, I have my Sideshow display, I've got my Prime 1 display, I've got my Diamond Select animated series busts that I've been collecting. So I kind of liked that theme, just Batman surrounded by his villains. Now, the Bat family was really great, but I just don't have that connection like I do with the villains.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, I think I feel the same way, but man, a Nightwing would be dope, and like maybe even a Robin. So
now they did do two different Nightwings. They did a red version, which is very limited. It's very hard to find, and they did the blue version, which is the one I have. But it just was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't as exciting to me. It was kind of a lower profile. Him and Batgirl both were coming up from a step, so they were only about half as tall as all the other pieces. So they were meant to be kind of like a bookend to your display. So it's still a cool option, but if you're going to have Nightwing, I think you have to have Batgirl too.
And I think I would rather blue because I have Red Hood, so I wouldn't want a red Nightwing as well.
Yep.
But then again, like, man, do I need that? Do I need Arkham Knight even though I have Red Hood? You know, you got to make decisions. You can't collect them all.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What would you say, like, your top 3 pieces are from this line?
Oh, man. My number one, I would say, is Batman. After all these different characters, Batman, I think, is still my favorite one of the line. I also really like the Joker. The Joker's up there. And probably, oh, man. I'm trying to remember. I did a list not too long ago. I'll have to go back and make sure it's the same.
But, you know, that's the thing about doing lists. Your preferences can change over time, you know?
They do. I really like Mr. Freeze, and I really like Scarecrow. Scarecrow's very underrated, but incredibly creepy. I love him as well.
Now, I think I know where you're going to go with this. And not to say what's the worst, because we obviously, we appreciate all these statues, the sculptors, the factories, the painters. But what would you say were like the bottom 3, the easy passes from this line, or ones that you wouldn't really recommend getting? And you might even say Nightwing and Batgirl because, like you said, they're shorter or what have you.
Yeah, I think Nightwing and Batgirl definitely come to mind as my least favorite of the line. And then I would probably have to go with Bane. Bane is a cool character, but I feel like the comic book versions of Bane are just so much better than the game. And it's not really Prime 1's fault. It's just that the game version of him wasn't as exciting to me. But I still think he's a cool sculpt. And I know you have the Venom Bane. I have the Mercenary Bane where he's kind of going like this. And it's just kind of dull. There's not a lot to him. It's more intimidating looking than anything else. But I think that he's probably... Those 3 are probably my bottom 3.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The comic version of Bane is so much more iconic and I think better looking than the video game one. And yeah, it's weird how they have those 2 versions because they have switch out torsos. And we talked about it. I was like, how is there not a DX version that came with both torsos? That seems like such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, we've talked about it for years in the group about how, like, why wouldn't they do that? Because the lower half is exactly the same base, same legs. And so all they would have had to do is offer both bodies in one set with the 3 different head sculpts, and they would have sold a ton. I would have bought that because then that way you could swap it however you want. And Prime 1 since then, if you notice, they do a lot of deluxes like that now where you can do more options. But back in those days, they just didn't have those options. This was early on in Prime 1.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, everyone has their different preferences. I preferred the Venom one because I like the tubes and I like the Venom. I thought the one with the arms crossed, it was cool, but it just wasn't as cool as the Venom one. So
yeah, there's more details about that Venom Bane. The only thing I wish is it's got so much detail on the back. I wish it was more up front because, you know, when you're displaying them, you don't get to see as much of that great detail because it's kind of like got a skull backpack on the back, and it's really cool.
No, that's a good point. It's funny, though, because he is very large. I'm looking at him next to Red Hood. He's lower on the base, but still way taller than Red Hood, who stands taller on a bigger base.
Yeah, he's massive.
So, man, I think those are really good takeaways for somebody looking to get into this line. It's really making me think, man, do I really need all these similar versions? Do I really need to get the Bat family? Do I just stick to rogues? Do I need to get all the rogues? So, man, I really appreciate you coming on and helping me break down this line for myself and for anyone watching. Definitely check out the Batman Statue Collector. He does statue unboxing and reviews, and kind of anything related to Batman, whether it's like an absolute review or some mini busts like you mentioned from the animated series, which is one of my favorite Batman takes, right? So make sure to hit the Batman Statue Collector to subscribe. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel and that you hit the like. Drop me a comment below. What is your favorite piece from the Arkham line, and what's your least favorite? I'm going to get out of here. You want to say goodbye to him, Chris?
Hey, I just want to thank you guys so very much. And Jim, I'm really glad that you're picking up some of these pieces.
Man, I'm happy I finally joined the DC side.
That's right. Welcome to the dark side, my friend.
Thanks for watching. You guys stay minty fresh. Peace.